trust, he gains the ability to sculpt their very thoughts. You are wise to fear these rings. Galadriel.
Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for the finale of Rings of Power Season 2. We're going to get into spoilers right off the bat because there's a lot of things I want to talk about. There's a big list of events that happen and I want to make sure to hit everything. But this season was great. I really, really loved it. From the look, the story, all the characters that we got to see, everything really worked for me. I think the last episode had been built up so much that it was going to be really hard to meet every expectation, specifically after the big battle from the previous episode. And there were still a few kind of loose ends from some storylines that I was not super on board with. All the stuff with the Harfoot, I don't really. I understand why it's there, and it really it makes sense once you watch the whole season. But every time we went to visit the Harfoot, it was not my favorite storyline just because there was so much cool stuff going on. I wanna follow Sauron. I want to follow Galadriel. I want to follow some of these other characters. Even the stuff at Numenor, sometimes it feels like, why are we going through here? Uh, I haven't seen the films in a while. I'm not a big Lord of the Rings person, so I don't know exactly where all those stories are going to lead. Right? I know the big overall story where that's going to lead, like with Sauron and what happens in the future. But overall, yeah, I don't know much. So there's still a lot of surprises for me in this episode and throughout the season. So we begin at the mountain with the dwarves, where King Doran finds a passage. He had been out of control. The ring had been controlling him, and he finds a passage to mine some more of that mineral. I think it's called the mithril. That the rings were forged. Like, it was their biggest resource, right? So obviously, the more they have, the more power the king has to wield when it comes to making trades and negotiations and all that. But also, it turns out that we finally get the payoff of the Balrog. The Balrog is there, and there's this really cool sequence where King Doran, the father, sacrifices himself after naming his son his successor. Um, Big cinematic sequence, great music. Bear McCreary score is out of this world for this show. It's fantastic to see. Um, I did make another note, so let's close out everything with the dwarves for now. Oh yeah, they're even though Prince Durin is now the new King Durin, it looks like they're gonna introduce some more acclaim for the throne. It looks like he has a brother that we'll probably see in later seasons. So there's that. All right, let's talk about everything with the stranger real quick to really get to the big story. The stranger meets with the dark wizard as he goes back for Nori and the Harfoots, but the stranger manages to save them. It looks like the dark wizard and the stranger have a relationship from prior that he doesn't remember. And the dark wizard, he mentions that he's only known as the dark wizard because that's what humans call him, but he really also wants to he wants to get rid of Sauron as well, which it seems like that's everyone's goal in this show, which makes perfect sense because he's such a powerful entity. But when the stranger does not acquiesce and go with him, he he tries to kill the Harfoot, but the stranger manages to stop that and everything. So later on, we do see that after the stranger saves everyone, the Harfoot decide that they'll leave now. These new Harfoot that we met, I don't know if they're called Harfoot as well, but just for the sake of ease, we're gonna call them all. They're they're kind of like from the same descendants or whatever. Maybe these are the ones that become hobbits. I don't know. But yeah, Nori and Poppy are gonna help them traverse to find new homes now that their homes have been destroyed. The stranger, it's really funny. We've obviously there's been hints at who this stranger could be. That's one of the big mysteries throughout the whole season. One of the Harfoots that we met calls them Grand Elf because they don't remember. I mean, they've never met elves, so they don't know what an elf would look like. And because the stranger's so tall, they call him the Grand Elf, which of course sounds a lot like Gandalf. He goes back with Tom Bombadil after he finds his staff. And it is pretty much confirmed that he calls him Gandalf. He doesn't remember his name, but he does call him Gandalf. And then they sing a song that is about Tom Bombadil, which is really really interesting and really funny. So at least we have that confirmation. I had heard that because of the rights, they couldn't technically call him Gandalf. So I don't know where I don't know the legalities of the Lord of the Rings state. So, but here we are. All right, let's talk about Numenor real quick. Farazan gathers all the people to discredit the queen, right? Because he saw that Sauron, he saw the influence of Sauron and all that. So he claims now that the queen was only able to escape from the sea creature because of Sauron's influence. And he kind of begins this witch hunt to get everyone that's still on board with the queen, mark them as traitors. Um, Things really escalate. A lot of it has to do with the little colony that they have closer to where everything's going on. That story I did not find very interesting, so I didn't make a lot of notes of it. But we do see that the captain has kind of left. The queen will stay behind the Numenor. Hopefully, this picks up a little bit more in the next season or in the future. But yeah, overall, I think, like I said, I haven't seen. I've never. I haven't. I don't remember what the future of Numenor is. But I think it's not very good, right? I think overall it's pretty sad, and there's really not a lot of things that would keep me engaged. So, anyways, all right, back to the last of it, back to the main story with Sauron and the elves and everything that's going on. So we see that the orcs continue their attack on the city. They captured Galadriel. Galadriel was leaving with the rings of men, but she manages to get captured after trying to lead some of the people out. Um, the orcs, of course, want to bring Galadriel back to Adar. Also, in the meanwhile, Celebrimbor kind of being used as target practice, and Sauron, like, he eventually just gets fed up. Sauron gets fed up and kills Celebrimbor. What a shame! What a shame, because man, oh man, what a great performance by the actor who did Celebrimbor. Really, really cool stuff. I don't have a list of names here in front of me, but man, oh man, he was great this season. So he'll definitely be sorely missed. Goodbye to our original Lord of the Rings. Um, we see that one of the orcs, the main one, Glug, I think it's his name, shows up and meets Sauron. And now that we know that Sauron's influence is, part of his plan is to get himself an army of orcs. So we'll see how that plays out with Adar. In the last episode, we saw that Adar took the ring from Elrond, and now when he puts it on, he looks younger. He looks healed. Like all the damage from whatever turned him into what he is now was kind of gone. But he does end up giving Galadriel the ring back. And then, of course, the orcs end up betraying him because now they are under the influence of Sauron. He gains his crown, he gains an army, and Adar he dies because he's the one that originally tried to kill Sauron. So, yeah. Then there's a sequence where we see Galadriel and Sauron fighting. All throughout this sequence, they use a lot of Dutch angles, which I thought was really interesting. Now, a Dutch angle, for those that don't know, it's when everything's a little skew, right? So like characters or everything like a little tilted, and it's supposed to give you a sense of unease and something's off, right? Because obviously everything's not straight on; it's a little off center, off kilter. So something's off, and it's supposed to evoke that. There was a lot of those, like in this one sequence, which makes sense because Sauron is obviously like a master of manipulation, a master of not knowing what's real, especially when he's able to control the perception of different people. We do have a showdown with Galadriel and Sauron, who keeps playing mind games with her. It's a really intense battle. He shapeshifts a little bit to kind of keep Galadriel over her toes, because I think Galadriel's supposed to be one of the best fighters, right? So obviously he's gonna struggle, but he's so powerful. Sauron is so powerful. It was really fun to see him back as the Hallbrand. He turned back into that. He also turns into a different version of a Galadriel. We had a Galadriel face off. We also had a Celebrimbor make one more appearance. We Sauron shifts into Celebrimbor. And then Galadriel eventually is losing the battle, but instead of turning back the ring, she jumps off the cliff. And so Sauron has to leave because they hear that the dwarf army finally comes out. Now, Prince Durin didn't come with the army, but he did send the army to help Elrond and the rest of the elves. But the city's lost. The city's gone by that point. Elrond has to use the ring to save Galadriel because she's been infected by this darkness. And I think that's a darkness that kind of keeps coming back, if I remember correctly from the films. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. So yeah, that's kind of pretty much it. Everything's left in shambles. Sauron has gained an army. The queen has been dethroned. We have a new king in the dwarves, but he might be his reign might be contested by his brother. So yeah, it's season 2. Things are not looking good for our heroes, and I think they're just going to get worse because obviously, if you know Lord of the Rings, you kind of know where a lot of these things are going. So onto the Hobbit, right? So there you go. That's Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power season 2. Overall, just a fantastic season. I really enjoyed it. I think it's probably just as good, or if not better, than the first season. But yeah, really, really interesting stuff. As somebody that's not a big Tolkien fan, and I don't mean that I don't like his work. I just mean that I'm not as in depth as a lot of people are. There's a lot of people that take Tolkien very seriously, and I applaud them for it. I'm just not that person, but I do like the show enough. I like the movies enough, and I'm really excited about the animated film that we're gonna get in a few months as well. So we'll definitely be covering that in the channel as well. So if you enjoy season 2 of Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, let us know down in the comments. As always, thank you for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Saturdays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned. We have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff in the channel. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.